So next we have Shivani Votra. And Shivani, I don't want to cut into your time here in any way, and I'll just let you go right to it. If you have a screen you'd like to share, you can go ahead and do that now.
I'll thank you, Chris. I'll come back to the sharing my screen, okay? It was a wonderful talk, Professor Long. And like as you say, I have also been connected with Arihanta Academy at different occasions. I have been a student of Professor Long and also involved in different courses and at different platforms. So good evening once again, good afternoon and good evening, depending upon different zones. It really feels good to see so many familiar faces here. If I wouldn't have been really suffering from COVID, this presentation would have a different shape and spirit. But as you can see, my voice will crack, but still I'll try to do my best. As we gather virtually for the conference on applied Jainism, I would like to take a moment to provide some context for my presentation on lay perspectives on Aneka. I have been fascinated by the recent surge of interest in Aneka, which within the scholarly community. Recently, there have been 3 special lectures expounding Aneka, and 2 edited volumes are in the process, in addition to various conferences on this topic that explores multidimensional aspects of this multiple perspective philosophy. I wonder whether Aneka is a new trend or simply waiting in a queue after ahimsa and veganism in the growing field of Jain studies. As I was exploring this topic, I recognized how much each one of us embraces this principle without really knowing. So with this background, I'll now share my screen. Is it all right?
Perfect.
Okay. So the presentation here is divided into small units. First, I will start with background of this presentation, then talk very briefly about Aneka from lay perspective, then start the question survey that I did, results and analysis. So with the background, I would say that Aneka has been variously viewed both by the tradition and by scholars. For instance, Peter Flugel views that Aneka is nowadays seen as a trademark of Jain philosophy. B.K. Matilal considers Aneka to be the central Jain philosophy. By contrast, Janendra Soni notes that Aneka is a small, albeit basic part of Jain thought. Research on how Jain practitioners view Aneka is yet missing. It is crucial to understand Aneka beyond philosophy because of its exclusiveness and centrality in the Jain tradition. This paper aims to fill this gap by examining Aneka from the Laity's perspectives. My presentation seeks to answer one question. Is Aneka simply a philosophical discourse, or does it have the potential to be applied in everyday life? If yes, then how? And if not, then why not? This question has motivated me to delve deeper into the topic, and I'm excited to share my findings with you today. To begin, I surveyed Shravakachar's treatise on lay conduct to understand whether there has been any guideline for Jain laity about Aneka. I discovered that while there are detailed explanation of vratas and pratimas and dietaries do's and don'ts, neither Shravakachar nor Shramanachar provides guidelines for Aneka. On the other hand, both ahimsa and aparigraha, limited possessions, are addressed in various ways. Aneka is a method of expressing thought, vichar, and is distinct from the achars or conduct for lay Jains. Perhaps this explains the absence about Aneka from books on lay conduct. So where can the lay community turn to understanding Aneka? This is a basic question. To address this inquiry, I created a bilingual survey questionnaire with the aim of exploring the Jain lay community's views on the significance of Anekantvad and how they incorporate it into their personal, religious, and spiritual life. There was a total of 15 questions in the survey. The first 6 were multiple choice questions asking about the respondents' age, gender, sex, city of residence, religious affiliation, and knowledge of Jain principles. The remaining questions focused on the application of Jain principles, including Anekantvada. The survey was restricted to householders and intentionally excluded responses from scholarly Jains, monks, and nuns. I received 130 responses from Jains living both in rural as well as urban areas across India, regardless of their Digambar or Shwetambar affiliations. Based on the responses to the survey question, I conducted follow-up interviews with 7 individual Jains. With this background, I now begin by restating the question. Is Anekantvad simply a philosophical discourse, or does it have the potential to be applied in everyday Jain life? If yes, then how? And if not, why not? Taking advantage of being a presenter in the first session, I would like to just very briefly describe what is Anekantvad. Anekantvad is a method of reconciliation, integration, and synthesis of opposing views. It is qualified version where there is no scope for doubt or compromise. A conversation between Mahavir and his first disciple, Gautam Gandhar. Gautam asks Mahavir, what is reality? Mahavir, that which originates. Is there some disturbance?
Yes, I was just going to tell you, Shibani, it sounds like there's some audio disturbance a little bit there.
From where?
It doesn't appear to be coming from any of the participants because everyone's muted.
Okay.
So let's see if it happens again, and then we'll try to figure it out.
So I repeat again. Gautam asks Mahavir, what is reality? Mahavir, that which originates, Utpad. Gautam asks again, what is reality? Mahavir, that which decays. Right. Gautam asks for the third time, what is reality? Mahavir, that which sustains. Now, this shows that reality has been presented in different ways through different aspects. Here, the reason why I am using this specific example is because lay Jains who talked with me and what came up in their interviews and survey is that they are not actually concerned about this philosophic inquiry about what is reality. What concerns to them and what they understand by reality is what they understand by Anekantvad, what examples they shared with me are very intriguing. Anekantvad, according to them, is a tool developed to reconcile and synthesize various conflicting philosophical perspectives, making discussions more productive. To help clarify the concept of Anekantvad for lay people, let us consider the following scenario. A bird sitting on a tree was chirping. A Hindu standing under the tree interpreted the sounds as the bird uttering the names of Ram, Lakshman, and Dashrath. Meanwhile, a Muslim also heard the same sounds and perceived it as the bird passing as Allah, who is the creator. While a farmer passing by the tree thought the bird was signaling onions, carrots, and cucumbers. A nearby police officer heard the same sounds and interpreted it as someone being attacked. while a businessman thought in terms of profit, loss, or percentages. However, a person with an understanding of the Anekant philosophy would observe that the bird is not actually speaking any of these things, but each individual is simply interpreting the sounds according to their unique perspective. Another illustration, which is commonly given by lay Jains, is that one person views milk as good, while the other person views milk as not good. Both statements appear to contrast each other. However, someone who holds an anekantic view will say milk is good for those who have a good digestion, whereas it is not good for those who have poor digestion. These views are with respect to digestion. So these are some of the simple examples that Jain Laity have shared with me with regards to how and what they understand of Anekantvad. A final example that I would like to quote, which is most popular among Jains, is that the same person can be a mother, at the same time a wife, a daughter, or an aunt. If a child insists that she is just a mother, then the child overlooks the truth behind the other roles. When we look around in our environment, we see the coexistence of day, night, flower and thorn, nectar and poison, among many other things, which are also, in a way, an ekantic perspective that we generally overlook. I next turn to those 15 questions that were put as a part of Google survey form. Question number 3 was based on age, and it was only 10% of people who were between the age group 20 and 30. Rest all were almost like 25%, 26%. So the distribution was fairly fine. The other questions were like, what is the most important philosophy of the Jain tradition? What are other Jain principles you know? There was almost like 123 and 118 responses to these questions. And the most important philosophy that came across in their answers was ahimsa. In addition to live and let live, jio or jinedo, aparigraha, anekantvad, karma, forgiveness. The reason why I have listed these few numbers is because most of them repeated this. There were some other variations. Like, for example, live or let live, or they also use the Hindi aphorism jio or jinedo as part of Jain philosophy, which is because it's very popularly understood as, but Mahavir never spoke of jio or jinedo or live or let live. So some of the things show some of the popular assumptions that people have, which they have repeated. The majority of the answers were ahimsa, aparigraha. There were some answers that were related to anekantvad. Now, there were the other questions that, can you explain ahimsa? 95% of people said yes. Whereas in the question, have you heard about Anekantvad? There was 126 responses and 76% said yes, while 24% said no. A lot of people, even within the Jain community, are still not sure about Anekantvad. That is what was the main query that I had. Despite being a central philosophy, according to some, there are still educated, literate Jains who wonder what this concept is all about. Another question was, how do you relate to Anekantvad? Now, if we notice here that from 130 respondents, these 4 questions, how do you relate to Anekantvad? How do you apply Anekantvad in your religious life, personal life, or spiritual life? The number of responses have been reducing. And the answers that one found was also very interesting. These are some of the detailed answers that came up in the survey form. Anekant is intellectual ahimsa. As Bhagwan has said, proving our viewpoint is not very important, neither is it an inclination of knowledge, and we must accept all beings like Sukh, hence we must follow ahimsa in our thought, word, and action. It is a principle that can promote intense change. Some of these answers really show an in-depth understanding about Anekantvad. The other respondents said, the understanding that truth is multi-sided and that there is no one right answers, there can be many right answers. Different religions or belief systems may have different ways of understanding or explaining the nature of reality, and each may contain some element of truth. I can't read one of these because my screen has been blocked by the pictures of all the other participants, but I leave it to that. There are other smaller answers like, I am following religion in my way. I do not criticize anybody if he follows differently. But we get an idea that people who have answered, those who understand Anekantvad, have expressed Anekantvad in these ways. Now, the 15th question was, from where did you hear or learn about Anekantvad? This was an important question because, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, neither the Shravakachars nor the Shramanachars have talked about Anekantvad. Then where do Jain lay people know about this important philosophy? So most of them have said either Jain monks and nuns in religious discourses, or their guru or acharya or guruji. But interestingly, many people referred to Google, online. A few said wife, auntie, father, uncle, some relatives. And most interesting, what I found was someone had written, first time listened from you. It was only due to the questionnaire that 3 people had said that they had never heard of Anekantvad before, but it is so difficult to really come into any conclusion because we saw some examples of really profound understanding of Anekantvada among lay community. On the other hand, we have some responses where people say initially friends and family, later reading different agams which may have explicitly mentioned Anekantvad. Similar principles as in Acharang and Bhagwati. This shows really a trend that is changing among lay community within the native place. This survey was mainly focused on Indian Jains living across different rural as well as urban areas. I would like to now conclude this presentation with some of my thoughts on the basis of the survey questionnaire. The survey's mixed results provide a new perspective to our understanding of Anekantvada. Even though Anekantvad developed as a method of synthesis to overcome the problem of opposite viewpoints in philosophical discourses, it has transcended Jain scriptures to become a principle as fundamental as ahimsa, not only important, but also lucid in its application. Generally, the Jain laity listens to discourses provided by monks and nuns on a daily basis. With the advent of Zoom technology, across and access to religious discourses has become even more convenient. The topics of these lectures are usually related to conduct, vows, and stories that inspire daily practices. According to my respondents, traditional discourses aimed at better next life or moksha, but now the religious sermons offer strategies that are directed to better present life. Toward this goal, Anekantvad proves to be a useful tool to resolve issues without insisting upon one's view as the ultimate view. So this was a very crucial point, a point of departure, even within the community, where discourses were aimed towards better next life. The discourses are now targeting better present life. And here is where Anekantvad plays an important role. However, my survey also revealed that the lay community does not delve into the intricacies of the two wings of Anekantvad, Syadvad and Nayavad. Only 2 out of 130 respondents associated Anekantvad with Syadvad and Nayavad. And only 1 out of 130 referred to the very famous example of the 5 blind men and the elephant. Lastly, and one of the examples that a lot of people used in talking about Anekantvad was gold. Like they had this idea about substance, qualities, and the mood, that gold in the form of a chain is, in the form of a bangle is gold as a substance. But if the form is changed into a earring or a ring or a necklace, the quality, the substance do not change. It is only the mode that keeps changing. So this example was also intriguing to me, coming from the lay community. At the last, when I asked those people, some of those people with whom I had close interactions, that how do you develop Anekantvad in your, once you know what Anekantvad is, how do you develop it into your practice? So the answer was also quite fascinating. A few respondents, especially those sects where modern form of meditation is developed and popular, stressed upon meditation for mental training in order to develop toleration for opposite views. So according to some, meditation helps you find the truth. It helps you clarify your mental thinking. And once that, it helps you becoming calm and peace. And once all those are developed, the tolerance of accepting opposite views becomes like one needn't take efforts to do that, but it comes into practice. So thank you for your attention and for tolerating my cracked voice. I'm ready for questions.